I've got 20 minutes of banner, Lord, won't you see if this game will crash today? Welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies. Welcome to the kingdom of Calradia, hosted by the mighty Kevsy of Clan Websy. Thinking of my buddy Adam when I made this character. So, to catch you up to speed, this is a phase of the game that I haven't shown on the channel yet very much, and this is kingdom building. There have been a few very vital updates to the way other kingdoms react to you. That poor bastard's neck is clipping through his neck armor, as is that fella. I suppose certain things just happen when you get piked in the upper chest area. But they are my prisoners, and I'll just have to keep them alive for a little bit. They're not worth anything dead. Speaking of, there have been updates to the way that other nations react to you once you establish your kingdom. It takes them a lot longer to declare war on you, and there's also a minimum 25 days of peace after making a peace agreement. So you can very easily make a profit off of some hostile activities, lightsaber negotiations, if you will. And, oh, Anakin, you were supposed to be the chosen one. But, we're going to go take Danustica, and then say we're very sorry and give nothing back. And it cost round about 46,000 dinars to make peace. You can see we're sitting at 1.5 million. So that's kind of ridiculous. I haven't really been cheesing anything to get that amount of income either. I have a few shops set up, and I think 1 or 2 caravans going that end up netting me around 13k passive income. And I'm just gonna make a little safety save here. Things can get a little swifty when you are besieging, and this will be my second city siege in this campaign. So I'd like things to go well. I'd also like to not get jumped by a 700-man army, but we'll just have to see what happens. We've got 15 more minutes, I suppose, to work this out, and we'll just see how things turn out. I'm really enjoying this Kevsy Websy gameplay, and again, with a few mods installed, one of which, and I'm afraid it's one of my favorite mods, causes the game to crash when I try to enter the smithy, so that's just not happening. I'm actually using the weapons that the game gives to me, which, I don't know, they're a little more balanced than the ones you can craft with high-level smithing, so I guess I shouldn't complain. My main character is rocking a balanced glaive, which is significantly shorter than the long glaive, but still does a fantastic job of chopping things you want to chop. You just have to get within cuddling distance when you're mounted to do so. Kachiga. Anyway, sometimes there are long pauses in the video, and I guarantee you that I was either giving food to a toddler or changing a diaper. And yes, I am that fast. I do pretty much all the diapers, so I'm fairly efficient at it. And I also hope to be very effective in this siege. That's another thing that's seen a lot of updating with quick fixes and minor patches to get things working smoothly. And again, gotta say, I'm very happy with where things are now. If you've been waiting for Mount and Blade Bannerlord to be more playable before you buy it, I would honestly say now is probably the time. With the community patch mod from Nexus Mods and maybe a few other mods to your taste, the game runs very, very reasonably, even if you'll see my computer chunking a bit, especially during these large battles. That's just down to the fact that, again, the game's still not super well optimized, and it does have memory leak issues, so you will have to close your background programs, as I've talked about before, and restart your computer every now and then. But I am clearly willing to accept that, and I've been having a total blast, so come with me, if you will, into the Siege of Danustica. What I haven't shown you is quite a lot of building this character and his legacy. We've married Yana, the delightful, what would she be called? Warrior princess from Southern Empire. And she left her fiefs for me. That's true love. And now she's bearing me dozens of children. I'm like, hey babe, you're pregnant again. To my wife. And it's funny because my video game wife is pregnant all the time, and so is my real world wife. Art imitates life, if you will. And I'm thinking that it might be time for me to defend myself a little bit. I've been trying to chuck wood here as a busy little woodchuck, and these little angry hornets are either staring me down with the old dead fisheye or plonking me full of arrows, so a little bit of comeuppance, if you will. Always nice to have an archer around when you need one. I'm not entirely sure what my army of archers is doing, other than being useless, but I am learning a little bit more about sieges. To wit, if you want your troops to start smacking ineffectually their pummels against a gate, then you can select the group you want to command, and then just left-click on the gate while you're looking at it, and the contextual command system will understand your desire is for them to stand too close to the gate and smack it with the pommel of their swords, dealing minor damage compared with what they can accomplish if they stood a foot further back and got a full swing. But, I mean, it's a good game. It's not a perfect game, and it is still in early access. As for these easy targets I'm having for my bow, well, that doesn't really make a huge impact on the battle. I think we're facing off against around 400 defenders here, so my plinking away for somewhere in the area of 10 to 15 kills isn't really going to accomplish a lot, but it's busy work. It's an honest living. And it always feels good to feel like I'm contributing. The battering ram, having finally arrived, finds us in the midst of our work and definitely lightens the load. If you have the time to ram, I highly recommend that you avail yourself of the opportunity. So Toshio, why go for the main gate when there are half a dozen perfectly good siege ladders waiting for my men to climb up and get decaffeinated on the way to the walls? Well, there's this idea of concentration of forces in Mount and Blade. As my men did just that. They ran for the siege ladders as soon as I wasn't giving them direct commands, because they're just so eager to make horrible tactical decisions. concentration of forces. You can see that there are a handful of enemy archers in these bastions, Nerf Bastion, and they're not all that effective against me, even though they are well protected, relatively speaking. It's difficult for them to accomplish much because only a few guys can attack at once. Even worse is the situation at the top of the walls if you're using the siege ladders, with one man showing up to a face full of foes. He's always outnumbered until somehow, by some eldritch magic, you manage to clear the walls. So it's far better to stay on the ground like a good dwarf and go for the main gate. And here you see, we are able to match the enemy's concentration of force, thus evening the odds, except that, of course, we're also using much more seasoned troops, only my best soldiers, for the siege of Danustica. I train up, I'm a big fan of Palatine Guards, the top tier Empire Archers, because of their ability to perform in melee as well as ranged combat, and I'll train them up and then stash them in a castle or a city, and then when it's time to do a siege, I'll ditch all of my little training troops with the wheels still attached and trade them out for this very deadly army. Cry every time I lose a soldier. But it is what it is. You get a net gain over time. You just gotta keep plugging away and whacking away at the enemy. And of course, we're playing very aggressively here, sticking ourselves out in the midst of the melee, fairly close to where enemy reinforcements are spawning in. Just because, as I mentioned every time in these videos, I am playing on easy difficulty. My character only takes 1/3 the normal amount of damage, and my allied soldiers take 2/3 the normal amount of damage. So, not an overwhelming advantage, but just enough that I can play a lot more aggressively, and that's what I like to do. I like to be more involved, and I am, after all, a fan of the old school Dynasty Warriors games, so I like to swing a stick around every now and then, especially if it's got something shiny on the end of it. Speaking of, we are coming to the end of this siege, and you can see that things went very well for us. If you try scaling the walls, things can go very, very badly for you. I've also heard that catapults can be a lot of fun in taking down enemy structures from a distance, but I'm not sure how to overcome the handicap of the siege camp taking a bunch of time to build, and the enemy catapults being already built by the time I'm even done setting up camp. Then, of course, they can attack my own equipment before I can manage to get overwhelming local firepower. And that was dumb. Gravity hurts, especially when you're wearing such heavy armor. Don't quote me on that. But, we'll try not to fall down so much. Blame it on input lag or something. Maybe I was distracted. Speaking of, if I sound tired tonight, it's because I am, like usual these days. But the past couple of weeks have been especially tiring just because Zoe has some molars coming in, and it makes her very, very cranky. And if anything is wrong, then she still reverts to just wailing at me, and that is, that's pretty rough. Excuse me, I did mention that I'm pretty tired. So, 300 prisoners, more or less, and we're going to capture all of them. Now, of course, ordinarily there is a limit to the number of prisoners you can manage, and today is no exception. We happen to be standing half a mile outside the city gate, so we'll just walk into town, stroll into the tavern, and turn over the entire defending garrison to whoever handles these hostage negotiations. What's it called when you pay for somebody's freedom? No slavers in this one. Slavery must have come later to Calradia, I suppose. But here you can see a 700-person army at their head. Some self-important South Empire nobleman that was just a little bit too late gathering up his posse. And now I get to sell all the spoils of war, sell off the captives, and then pay off the enemy kingdom to the tune of far less gold than I just gained by taking their city. And I get to keep the city too. I wouldn't describe that as a balancing issue. Let's call it an opportunity. It is difficult enough to conquer the world, after all. And, of course, somebody gained some skills, but Kevsy is a little bit stagnant in terms of his own progression, and I haven't really been focusing on building his more obscure skills so that he can level up. I'm pretty comfortable with where he is. I think it's alright that at a certain point you start to get really diminishing returns on your skill progression. If you could do everything, then there wouldn't be a reason to play another character. Now, would there? Although, as I mentioned before, the role-playing experience can be a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Kevsy's early days as we allocate some perks here. A lot of the perks don't really seem to do much. 2% here, 3% there, 3 HP. It doesn't really make as much difference for the amount of time invested in the skills, but it's better than nothing. Let's go ahead and give this one to my mom-in-law. She does need a nice place to hang her helmet, and I have enough for now. It's nice to share. It's another thing that I've been teaching to the girls. So far, of course, baby Zoe can't even say the word share, and Brooklyn thinks that sharing is when you give it to me. But here we go. To go make peace because we can against an AI that can't say no to a mediocre pile of delicious dinars. And this is where we wrap things up for the night. I have been, as I've said in each one of these videos, having an absolute blast with Mount and Blade Bannerlord. It does make me want to upgrade my PC. Now is not a good time to do that, because I am not the first person to have that idea under our current circumstances. And speaking of which, there is, as usual, a link to the Toshio Thunder Zone Discord in the description of this video. Let's be honest here, we're all getting a little stir crazy, and I think social interaction is going to be a little bit weird for a long time. But if you want to hang out with a bunch of like-minded individuals and some nice folks and enjoy the peace and prosperity that 49,000 dinars can buy, go ahead and drop in. You'll find a lot of people that enjoy the game of War Thunder, or play it without enjoying it. And you'll also find some of the most interesting and kind and neat people that I've met on the internet. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.